The WNBA scene was recently shaken to its core when Lexie Hall dropped details that threw an unexpected spotlight on one of college basketball's most talked about players, Caitlin Clark. The revelation did not just create a stir. It sent shockwaves through the entire basketball community, sparking chatter in locker rooms and social media alike. Hall's words, casually yet sharply delivered, peeled back a layer of Clark's court persona that fans and players had only speculated about until now. But before we proceed further, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Caitlin Clark, known for her sharp shooting and fearless attitude on the court, carries herself with a level of confidence that teeters on the edge of provocation. Her moves are precise, her court vision impressive, but it's her sheer audacity that has defined her career. Whether she's making jaw-dropping threes from far beyond the arc or weaving through defenders with an almost dismissive ease, Clark's style screams dominance. However, with Hall's recent disclosures, fans now know that her approach to the game involves more than just skill. It delves into an almost psychological warfare that many hadn't fully appreciated. Hall, herself a fierce competitor, has always been respected for her defensive prowess and a quiet tenacity that made her a tough matchup for any opponent. Her revelation, though, was far from just casual commentary. The way she laid out her experience playing against Clark exposed a mental facet of the game that often stays hidden behind the scenes. As Hall described, facing Clark is not just a battle of physical endurance or skill, but a duel laced with unexpected mind games that can rattle even seasoned players. During matchups, Clark's behavior goes beyond ordinary smack talk. It's part of a strategy that disrupts the rhythm of her opponents. Hall recounted moments when Clark would deliver taunting smiles, side glances that seemed to say, "Is that all you've got?" Gestures that, when timed right, could shake an opponent's confidence. This wasn't just showmanship, but a deliberate ploy. Hall's account made it clear, going toe-to-toe with Clark is as much about mental fortitude as it is about basketball fundamentals. The WNBA, long rooted in the display of grit and exceptional skill, has been evolving to include more flamboyant, personality-driven aspects, thanks in part to players like Clark. While Clark herself isn't yet in the WNBA, her influence on younger players and the general culture has been unmistakable. Her exploits at Iowa brought a fresh dose of swagger to college hoops, and Hall's story hints at how Clark's rise might influence future matchups if she continues on this trajectory. Hall's experience against Clark painted a picture of a competitor who doesn't just rely on points to win, but works to get inside her rival's head. It's not uncommon for top athletes to employ mind games, but there was something particularly relentless in the way Clark approached it. Picture this. You're mid-play, trying to focus on defending a star guard when she suddenly smirks at you as if to say, "I already know what you're going to do." Hall's recounting made it clear that Clark's strategy extended beyond typical trash talk, crafting a battlefield where physical skill and psychological acumen clashed. What makes this revelation significant isn't just the surprise factor, but the wider implications for how competitors prepare for games against players like Clark. Defenders may train to intercept passes, read screens, and stay agile on their feet, but how does one prepare for an opponent who thrives on throwing them off their mental game? This wasn't an occasional taunt. According to Hall, it was an arsenal. Clark's play style forced defenders to confront not just the scoreboard, but their own mental resilience. For Clark, it's as if the game's pulse thrums louder when she senses an opponent's frustration. She thrives on the tension, letting it fuel her game, something Hall was quick to notice. One particularly telling moment came during a high-stakes game when Clark, after sinking a deep three-pointer, turned to Hall and gave a barely perceptible nod, not a boast, but a subtle, piercing acknowledgement. In that small gesture, there was an understanding. Clark knew she was in Hall's head. The timing of Hall's exposure comes at an intriguing point as the WNBA continues to carve out space for intense rivalries and big personalities. The league has seen fierce competition, but stories like these inject it with a new layer of anticipation. If Clark's college persona carries over to the professional stage, it could reshape defensive strategies and the approach teams take when preparing for key matchups. Her antics, endearing to some and infuriating to others, bring to mind legendary mind players in sports history, those who could sway the momentum with a smirk or a well-timed taunt. Hall's account has forced a new appreciation for the mental battle inherent in high-level basketball. While many have commented on Clark's shooting range or her quick first step, Hall's inside story offered a view on how she operates from a psychological standpoint. The gym isn't just where Clark practices her form. It's where she fine-tunes her ability to spot opponents' weaknesses, both physical and emotional. Hall, known for her composed demeanor, was candid about the stress that playing against Clark's unpredictable nature brought. The tension wasn't something that stayed on the court. It followed players back to the bench and into huddles. Hall highlighted that even seasoned coaches could be caught off guard by Clark's methods, sometimes finding it difficult to keep their players calm and focused amid her game disruptions. Clark's ability to ruffle feathers without crossing into unsportsmanlike conduct is part of what makes her so difficult to play against. She walks the line, never quite stepping into the territory that would result in penalties but always playing close enough to unsettle her opponents. Hall's description of her matches with Clark brought out an element of surprise. It's one thing to hear about a player who scores with reckless abandon. It's another to hear that, at the same time, she's weaving a subtle psychological web around her opponents. For many fans, the reaction to Hall's revelation was a mix of astonishment and fascination. Here was confirmation that Clark's reputation was built not only on her athletic prowess, but also on an intricate understanding of the game's mind space. This adds another dimension to her rise. She isn't just a player who scores in flurries. She's a player who changes the tempo of the entire game with her presence. What Hall did with her disclosure was shine a light on a tactic that's often overlooked. Most stories focus on the explosive plays, the buzzer beaters, the game-winning moments. What rarely gets highlighted are the psychological battles that play out in between those moments. Clark's approach, as detailed by Hall, isn't about playing the game harder but smarter, using tactics that leave defenders rattled and second-guessing their own abilities. In a sport where confidence is as important as physicality, being forced to question your instincts can be detrimental. Hall spoke to the subtle but clear moments where Clark would disrupt plays not with a move or a shot, but with a look that communicated more than words ever could. These were the moments that didn't show up on the highlight reels, but mattered just as much in shifting momentum. The reactions from within the WNBA were swift, with many players expressing a newfound respect for what defending Clark might actually mean if she makes the jump to the league. Veteran players began to discuss strategies not just in terms of guarding a high score, but in terms of maintaining mental focus against someone who knows how to push buttons. Hall's story inspired dialogue about how basketball, especially at higher levels, is not just a battle of skill, but of poise under pressure. Hall's candid recountings serve as a wake-up call, especially to those who viewed Clark as just another rising star with exceptional range and accuracy. Her style, now understood to be laced with an underlying mind game, pointed to how new-age athletes are adding layers to what it means to dominate. It's not simply about putting the ball in the basket, but about weaving a narrative that keeps opponents off balance. For players like Hall, whose defense has always been their calling card, facing someone like Clark can be a frustrating experience. It means facing more than just a shooting guard. It's dealing with a puzzle that shifts shape throughout the game. Clark's ability to make defenders feel watched and measured adds another layer of difficulty that goes unnoticed by the untrained eye, but is felt in every step by those on the court. As Hall's story spread, so did conversations about the impact such strategies might have on young upcoming players who model their game after Clark's. Will the future of basketball see more players adopting her blend of talent and mind games? The implications are vast. If so, defenders and coaches alike will need to evolve their approach, not just to stop scoring, but to outwit a growing number of players who come with the full package, skill, and mental tactics. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.